Hi, welcome to this tutorial on the words courses of Pictures Are for Babies. So the words courses of Pictures Are for Babies are some of the most important, and also uh, they they are slightly more complicated than the rest because of the multiple intervention levels. So I will explain them in a bit, but let's just get started with a demo by opening the software. We select the folder that we already created, as was explained in the first tutorial in the instruction manual. We open it. I'm going to skip this lesson because it's symbols. Okay, so we have this lesson, right? And so it's a reading lesson. So as always, the first part of each lesson is to diagnose the student by showing examples, asking them to read them or write them, depending on whether it's a reading or dictation lesson, and then we do the intervention. So that part, the first part, is the same as in every exercise. It's just the intervention part where it gets a little bit more complicated. So let's do that real quick demo with the student. Hi! So we're going to assume Tigri already knows a little bit of reading, so he doesn't get too many wrong. Okay, so you got to read them. Jet. Job. I don't know. Okay, so you don't want to do it. If they say they don't want to click on them. Also, you don't want to click on it if the student doesn't do it right away, and I will explain that why that is the case in a little bit. Okay, so you saw that he also didn't do it very quickly, so we're not going to score this. Jib. Okay, so he got that right. Right, so that was the first part, diagnosis, and it was the same as for every other lesson. So we just want to know what's the level of the student. So now let me talk about intervention and why it's a little bit more complicated, and also why Pictures Are for Babies differs than most other programs which are based on phonics. So unlike most other programs, Pictures Are for Babies is not based on phonics, at least not in the way that you normally think about that. So there are 3 levels for learning to read. The first one is letter sound knowledge. So that's the letter T makes it sound T, the letter B makes it sound B. So that's letter sound knowledge. Then the second level is what you normally would call phonics. You learn some rules or some patterns, and that means you can decode. So that's the second stage, decoding. So let's, for example, look at this word courses. So somebody who's at the decoding stage would read, okay, that's a C, and then an O and a U followed by an R. So that's core. And then you see that it's an S, so course, and an E and an S, course, so it's a plural, so it's courses. So that's a very slow process, and that's where most phonics programs finish. So that's the end game. It's just to get the student to learn all these rules, but that is not enough to read fluently. It might be enough to read very simple books, but you run into the risk of masking actual reading difficulties. So Picture for Babies is based on the principle of orthographic mapping, right? So which is simply the process by which readers store words for immediate, effortless retrieval. So that those words, immediate and effortless, are very important, and that's why when I was scoring my student, I didn't allow him to get this one right, because even though he got it right and he said yacht, that was not effortless and immediate enough. So a good rule of thumb is just to 1 second. If they take more than 1 second to start, or they do it slowly, that's not the kind of effortless retrieval that would indicate they have orthographically mapped this word. So the second thing about orthographic mapping is that fluent readers have a vocabulary of words that they can immediately read. So that's called a sight vocabulary, and it's different from a sight word. A sight word, even though it's using the same term, a sight word is just usually a word that you learn by memorizing it without paying attention to the sounds. That's not something that Pictures for Babies ever does, because that's actually bad teaching. So there's no concept of sight words in Pictures for Babies in that sense, but I guess sight word, you can think actually of it as an instant word. So dictionary, practice, scores, setting, lesson, next, examples. So that's a sight word. I have my vocabulary of sight words, and in fluent readers, that vocabulary is tens of thousands of words. So if it's tens of thousands of words, how do you actually manage to track all of that? So you can see in the curriculum that Pictures for Babies has 25 words levels. And so you start with cat, map, pet, pot, and so on. And then you progressively get more complicated. I believe, yeah. So it started with 1 syllable words from levels 1 to 8, 9 to 11 are 2 and 3 syllable words. And then the next is morphology. So Anglo-Saxon, Latin, and Greek morphology. Level 18, it's foreign loanwords like tortilla, rendezvous, things like that, archaic and British English. And then the rest is kind of semantic categories that are not organized by the type, by the structure of the word, but actually by the meaning. So you start with simple categories like animals and food, and then it progresses through more specialist categories until you end up in level 25 that has STEM words, like words from fields like medicine, engineering, mathematics, and so on. So altogether, I think there are over 1,100 word lessons, and we're covering over 18,000 unique words. Some other words are repeated across several courses, but it's 18,000 unique ones. So that's, I believe, I have not been able to find any other product that does this type of that has this type of curriculum or this level of depth. So back to the word courses. The second part about the word courses is the intervention. So I'm going to give you an overview of intervention levels and why we have interventions. So basically, just think of that intervention and the tier intervention system as tier 0 intervention means the student got everything right. So there's nothing to teach them, so we don't do anything. Tier 1, it means we're going to give them basic instruction on how these words are read. And we're going to do that by exercising basic phonemic skills, in particular blending and segmenting words. So segmenting a word is breaking up into individual phonemes or sounds. So cat becomes cat, and then cat. The opposite of that is called blending. So cat becomes cat, and that's usually enough for most children. But for children who do not have for whom that is not enough, you're going to see this warning. So you will see this warning in here. It will be a red box and it says, if the student performs poorly on this exercise, consider providing a Tier 2 intervention to detect and correct deficits in phonological awareness. See the manual for detailed instructions. So these are the instructions. So here we're going to do more complicated phonological exercises. So there are 3 types. So substitution. So you have the word cat, replace k with p. What do you get? So we replace k with a p. We should get a pat, and so that's the answer. We're modifying words, but not the letters in words. We're just modifying their sounds. We're deleting, so you have pat, and then remove the t sound. What do you get? So you get pa, and then reversal, which is reverting the things, the sounds in the word. So we had pa in the last exercise. So how do you revert that? So app. So those are the types of exercises, and the reason they're included is because the source for that is this book, Essentials of Assisting, Preventing, and Overcoming Reading Difficulties. So he did a sort of study of reading interventions, and he found that the ones that have 3 elements, which are giving phonics or just explicit instruction on letter sound mapping, that was one element. The other one was doing the exercises that are in the Tier 2 and Tier 3. So exercises that develop phonemic awareness to more advanced levels. And the third element was opportunities for just reading in connected text, which is what the sentence courses does. So just being able to not only read individual words without context, but also read them in the context of real text. So the magic ingredient of the interventions he found was that second element, being able to do these types of exercises. And so we follow a tier model so that the students don't get extra instruction if they don't need it. So for most children, they're only ever going to go to Tier 0 and Tier 1 interventions, and hopefully they never have to reach this level. But if they do, we give them extra phonological work so they develop this phonological capacity. Okay, and so now we can explain Tier 3 intervention. Tier 3 is just like Tier 2, but you have kind of more exercises, and you also use tokens. So these emojis represent the tokens. You can have like, quarters, or you can make your own tokens out of cardboard or something. And instead of, you do the same exercises, but you use the tokens as visual aid. So let's see a deletion task, for example. So this is the word tramp, right? And so we're asking the student to remove the T sound. So we remove this orange token from the word. And so the student, it's just an aid for the student, so they don't have to exercise their memory if they have memory issues or some other type of executive function development issue. It's more easier for them to do these exercises. And finally, we have Tier 4. Tier 4 is something that normally all you need for using pictures and for babies is a fluent reader. But for Tier 4, really, it's interventions that for students that have more complex reading difficulties. So usually deficits in this ability to manipulate phonemes, like phonemic awareness, is that's what it's called. Deficits in that ability are sort of a universal cause, and if that's the only cause, then doing Tier 2 and Tier 3 will fix it. But sometimes there are other issues along with that. So you can have working memory, processing speed, rapid automating naming, which is I can't retrieve naming labels. So maybe you see an A and you know it's an A, but you have trouble retrieving the label. Executive function, so attention, inhibition, ADHD, language disorders, hearing impairment. So it's very hard for people with hearing impairments to actually read to a proficient level because the ability of manipulating phonemes is based on sound. So if you can't hear that well, that's a really big block. Or some combination of 2 or 3 of the above, in addition to phonemic awareness deficits. So if that is the case, you can still use pictures for babies, but you're going to have to, I guess, get a reading specialist, and they can use the program as a way to track the progress and a curriculum that doesn't involve any planning for them. And all they would do is just do the same diagnosis, and then if the student is having trouble, let's say they only got one right, they would do their own interventions based on their professional knowledge and just working with the student based on whatever one of these impairments, additional impairments they have. So if that is the case, you can still use tier 4, but tier 4 is only going to be necessary for a very small amount of students, from 5 to 10. So when David Kilpatrick ran that analysis of those reading interventions, he found that the best reading interventions, those that combine those 3 elements I talked about earlier, they really solve most of the reading difficulties. So in one group, it went from 30% of students with some type of reading difficulty to around 3%. So I'm saying 10 to 5%, but that is kind of conservative. It might actually be better. It might actually be fewer students need to use the tier 4 intervention at all. So that is the overview of the interventions. So now I'm going to talk about how you actually run the intervention. So let's start with instructions. I believe that he got this correct. So let's start with tier 0. Again, tier 0, simple. They got everything right. You click next lesson, right? So let's gonna assume that this was, actually no, it's not. You click next lesson and they go to the next lesson, and that's it. There's not much to it. So, okay, tier 1. Tier 1 is where you're gonna spend most of your time. And I guess it's kind of simple in the sense that it doesn't follow, picture FRBs doesn't follow a complicated set of rules. Yeah, that's something else I forgot to mention earlier, but it doesn't follow any sort of complicated phonemic rules. So it's still kind of like a phonics curriculum, except you don't have to learn any rules. You simply know how to pronounce the words. And the curriculum, the rules, and the structure of English is encoded in this graph. So the tutor doesn't have to do anything, really. All they have to do is run interventions for individual lessons. So intervention 1 just means explicit instruction on how you read or write this word. So we're going to start with a reading lesson, right? Okay, so the intervention is simple. We're going to go through each word that they missed. So in this case, we have 2 words to go through, jag and jot. So for each word, we have 2 stages. First, we sort of pronounce the word and segment it and blend it together, so the student knows how that word is split into individual sounds and how those sounds together put back the word. And then the second phase is what you normally call phonics, but really it's just mapping a letter to the sounds that it makes. So we're gonna go through the examples now. So first you just say the word, so jag, and you ask the student to repeat, jag. Okay, good. And then this part is a little bit confusing, but you wanna just say the word, like if you were being slowed down maybe by half or 3 times. So let's say the word jag then becomes jag. And you want to do this as fluidly as you can. Sometimes you can't. For example, with p and b, you actually have to make a stop because the word b, you have to make a stop, and you also don't want to. It's not b, it's b, b. So jag, and you don't want to make. It's not g a g. It's jag. It's jot. So let's do it with this word. Jag. And you ask the student to repeat. Jag. Okay, good. And then you say the word not just a little bit slower than normal. Jag. Jag. So they can see how it blends all back together. Yeah, so that's it. That's the procedure for the first part. And then the second part is just saying letter J makes it sound J, letter A makes it sound A, and letter G makes it sound G. And now you do it. Letter J makes it sound J, letter A makes it sound A, letter G makes it sound G. Okay. So now we do it for jot. Say jot. Jot. Okay, and now it's jot. Jot. So it's letter J. Also, and then you say jot. Jot. And so this part is only oral. So the difference between phonics and phonemic awareness is that you can close your eyes. I don't see anything above. And you could still say the exercises, like say jot, jot, right? So that's the difference between phonemic awareness and phonics. Right, so now letter J makes it sound J, letter O makes it sound O, letter T makes it sound T, letter J makes it sound J, letter O makes it sound O, letter T makes it sound T. Okay, good. So that was the intervention. And then we click to the next lesson. A couple things. So that was simple because it's only one letter makes one sound. So E for more complicated parts, for more complicated words, you can see, for example, for the word straight, you have to say, for example, you have the A and I, right? Those are making one sound, right? So the letter I, A and I make a sound A sound, right? Or you can have words that don't have a sound. So if you have a word like half, when you get to the E, you say the letter E is silent. Or if you have, for example, ghost, you say the letter G makes it sound G, the letter H is silent. Or you can say the letters G and H make it sound G. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's no in those situations there are multiple ways that you can say it. It doesn't matter as long as it matches how that word actually sounds. And another good part about this procedure is that it works even in foreign words. So the word anime is completely foreign word, right? It's Japanese. If this was an English word, it probably would sound like anime or something like that. But it sounds anime. Anime, right? And then you might add the letter A makes it sound A sound, the letter N makes it sound N sound, the letter I makes it sound E sound, the letter M makes it sound M sound, the letter E makes it sound A sound, right? So that's how you do it. That's how you do it for every word. You just have to maybe think a little bit. Maybe as a tutor, you go through it yourself first, and then you teach the student how to say the word if you're confused about it. But there are no complicated rules. So you don't have to learn any methodology like the 6 types of syllables like some other systems do, like Orthon Gillingham, where you have these very complicated sets, or like Logic of English, where you are given all these rules and you have to learn the rules. There's one procedure that works for every word, whether it's cat or whether it's a tortilla, like a foreign word. it's the same sound, you break it, you blend it, then you map letters to sounds. Yeah, so for example, ship, you would say the letter S and H makes it sound esh, right? The letter I makes it sound I, and the letter P makes it sound P, right? So it's really every word. So it's a little bit of investment in the beginning to learn these procedures, but they pay off because you will use the same procedure for years, or however long it takes the student to go through the 25 levels, right? So yeah, that is the level, that's tier 1 intervention. Oh, I almost forgot about dictation. So the way dictation works, I mean, it's the same procedure as in general. You go through the words and you ask the student to write. I believe I have instructions already in the general video for the instruction manual, which has instructions. So, but I'll just to repeat quickly, you go through the words and then you say vet, and the student is on his back with not looking at the screen, and then they write down the word, and then you score them based on if they wrote it correctly and if they wrote it quickly and effortlessly, and then with, and you go through each one, right, and ask the student to write it down. If they have issues writing, maybe they're too young, you can have them spell the letter. So vet, VET, with WIT. Yeah. So that's it, pretty much. And in terms of the intervention level 1, so it's the same thing as for reading, except that you might also want them to, if let's say if he had this lesson and he missed the word vet, so you, after doing the same procedure of blending and segmenting, you ask the student maybe to write down the word, maybe 2 or 3 times is enough, and you do the same thing for all the ones they missed. So that's the only difference with dictation. Yeah, so I think now we can move to tier 2 intervention. So tier 2 intervention, oh, one more thing I forgot. When you do the mapping, if at the beginning they might not know the letter names, so that's okay. You can say this letter makes it sound R, this letter makes it sound O, and this letter makes it sound T, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. And in the beginning, you have words that are very simple, so it's okay to write down, to just use this sort of pointing style. Okay, so let's move now to the level 2 intervention. So level 2 intervention, you will see a warning in the screen, and it will say this: if the student performs poorly on this exercise, consider providing a tier 2 intervention to detect and correct deficits in phonological awareness. See the manual for detailed instructions. So you will see it around here, and it will be in a red box, so it'll be very obvious. And you do the diagnosis as normal. If they do well in the lesson, let's say, meaning they maybe only get one wrong, so maybe they only get one wrong, that's fine, or they get everything right, then you can do level 1. But if they're still struggling after you get the warning, then you have to do a level 2 intervention. So the level 2 intervention, let's skip the diagnosis and let's just assume that he didn't do well. Maybe he only got this correctly, right? So that's 1 out of 4. That's bad. You don't want to do that. You want to just do level 1, because we're diagnosing that they have an issue with the same lesson repeatedly. So the warning only appears after a few times, and if they keep doing badly. So in this case, we have to do tier 2. So the instructions for tier 2: 1, first, you run level 1 intervention. So you will go through these words and do the level 1 intervention. So kid, kek, and kin. That's always a part of the higher level interventions, right? So it starts by performing tier 2, and then we're going to do exercises. And the 3 types of exercises are substitution, deletion, and reversal. And reversal is less common. You don't want to do too many. So you'll start with around maybe, it says somewhere in here. So you want to do about 5 or 6 exercises in total, mixing substitution, deletion, or reversal. So let's just go through that. As we go through that, I can give you the instructions for each of them. Let's do kid. So you're going to take the words. You're going to use the words in this lesson as your sample, as your as a starting step. And so let's do a substitution. So you're going to have the student look away from the screen because this is a phonological awareness exercise, so it can be done with eyes closed. So substitution means that we're going to take one of the sounds in this word, kid, and then we're going to replace it with another. So let's say we want to replace the D sound with a T. So we're going to ask the student, we have the word kid. What word do you get when you replace the sound D with T? And the answer they should get is kit, right? So this word kit, right? So we ask the student, change, in this case, change the, and you want to send the sound, not the letter. This is not about letters, this is about sound. Change the with t. What do you get? So the answer is kit, right? Because we had the word kid, we replaced d with t, so now we have kit. And so Tigger, you should answer kit, right? And so if that's it, if the student answers correctly, we move to another exercise. And if they don't answer, then we have we give the student one more opportunity. So you have the word kid. What happens when you replace d with t? And just doing it slowly hopefully helps them know this better. And so if they answer again, if they answer correctly this time, okay, we can move to the next one. But they're still getting incorrectly, then the student kind of models the answer. So kid, we replace d, and then we get kid, right? So you model the answer for them, and then you move on to the next exercise. So now the next exercise, we're gonna make it a deletion exercise. Yeah, so a deletion, we have a word. We're gonna maybe, oh, and don't worry about making up words. So they don't have to, it does, whatever the result of the exercise, it doesn't have to be a real word. We're manipulating sounds, we're not manipulating meaning, we're not manipulating letters, we're just manipulating sounds. So let's do a removal exercise with the word keg. So you have the word keg, and you remove the sound k. What word do you get? Egg. I love eggs. He loves eggs. I love eggs. Right. So that was the correct answer. But if they didn't get it, then you do the second part just as before. You do it slowly. You have the word keg. And what happens when you remove the sound? You get eggs. Yeah, you get eggs. Egg. One egg. I want more than one. No, you only get one. Yeah, so that's it. What else? Right, so here it's using the example is using the steak, and so if you remove the s, you get the word take, right? So now to this reversal. Okay, maybe we can do reversal. You don't want to use reversal that often, and you want to only do it for very short words, because how do you reverse elephant? I mean, you can't, but it just becomes very complicated, right? And that's not something fluent readers can do. But a fluent reader can just say kin. The reverse of that is nick, right? So let's do that with kin. So you have the word kin. If you reverse it, what word do you get? Nick, right? So you got it right. And again, if you had not gotten it right, we can do. We have the word kin. If you reverse that word, what word do you get? And so he answers Nick, right? And again, if he doesn't answer even at this point, then the tutor demonstrates. So I have the word kin, and when I reverse it, I get the sound Nick, right? So those are the 3 exercises. So all you have to do for tier 2, once you know what type of exercises, is that you do 5 or 6, and then you pick among deletion, substitution, and reversal, but mostly deletion and substitution. And so you use the words here in the lesson. So let's just do another one. Let's say reversal. So sorry, our deletion. So you have the word kin and you remove the sound k. What word do you get? N, right? So or you have the word keg and you replace the sound g with p. What do you get? Cap, right? So that is kind of what this is in general. So you do 5 to 6 of those, and once you do that, so first tier 2, tier 1, so explicit instruction, then 5 to 6 of these exercises that I just showed you, reversal, deletions, substitution, deletion, and reversal, and that is it. That's pretty much it for tier 2. So we're gonna do the next lesson, and so we're gonna do tier 3. So tier 3 is mostly tier 2. It's pretty much the same exercises, but the one difference is that we're gonna double the number of exercises that we do. So we do around 10 to 12 exercises, just because we have identified that it's a tier 3. So tier 3 happens if they continue to struggle. Even after tier 2, you will get this exercise. So the student performs poorly on this exercise, you will get this warning, sorry. And it will be here in red, slightly more red, slightly darker shade of red. And it will say the student performs poorly on this exercise, consider providing a tier 3 intervention to detect and correct deficit in phonemic awareness, and include additional multisensory support. See the manual for detailed instructions. So the additional multisensory support are the tokens. So you're gonna use, well, I don't have quarters, but you could use quarters, or you can maybe just go to the paper store, get some pieces of colored paper, get some tokens, right? And so you arrange the tokens not based on the letters, but based on the sounds. So tramp has 5 sounds, right? So tutor, p. So you arrange them here, and based on what you do. So if it's deletion, so if it's a substitution, you replace. So cat, we're going to replace this blue token with this green token, right? It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be colored, but hopefully by seeing how the sounds are arranged with the tokens, and by seeing how you're taking out the tokens or removing the tokens, or substituting the tokens or reversing the entire tokens, then that is the multisensory support that we mean. Yeah, so maybe I can go through this example, right? So you arrange the tokens as follows. So there's orange, yellow, blue, and then we ask cat, and we the tutor says cat and asks, what do you get when you change to an So the answer is can, right? But you also replace the last token with a different one. So in this case, we have color token, so you replace it with a green one. And so the answer is can, right? And so if they answer correctly, good, we move to the next exercise. If they don't, you rearrange the tokens again to the original one, and so you say, yeah, so rearrange it to the original order, and then we do the same part as in the tier 2, which is just saying them slowly. So cat, and then you replace 2 with an, and hopefully by this time they get it. And if not, the tutor provides the answer, so they model the answer with the tokens. Same thing for deletion. So we have the word tramp, and so we have the tokens. We have a orange token to represent the T sound. So you say, what happens when you remove the T sound? What word do you get? So, and then we take out physically this token. So now you get these 4 tokens. And so same thing, they should say ramp. If they don't get it, then we add the token again, and then we did tramp, right? And so ask the same question. Hopefully they get it. If not, you model the answer. Same thing for reversal. So I think you should get color ones for the reversal one because I guess it's easier to see, right? Because if you revert just white tokens or tokens of the same color, it won't be as bad. Yeah, so you have word map, you arrange the tokens, so it's orange, yellow, green, and you say map. What do you get when you reverse the sound? And the answer is Pam, right? So the tutor rearranges the tokens, so they revert it, so they move the green one to the front, the orange to the back, and so the student hopefully answers Pam. Otherwise, you do it again, but this time doing map. And you again rearrange the tokens, and hopefully the student does it this time. If not, you model the answer. So tier 3 is just tier 2 with double the exercises, so twice the number of exercises roughly. Again, using the same words from so if you had this, so pop, or you rep, zip, tap, and hip, you use the words in the lesson to guide you. And again, they don't have, the result doesn't have to be, so I guess maybe reversing this word is not the best idea, right? Because you get piss. Piss? I don't like piss. No, you don't like piss. Right? Or pop. I mean, pop is kind of funny because you get the same sound, right? So maybe this is more of a trick question for the student. But yeah, that's tier 3. And again, tier 4, I'm not going to talk about it too much because I already did mention that it requires an actual reading specialist. And hopefully you would only need it if you continue to struggle. So you'll get this message again as a warning and in an even darker shade of red. And it says, this tier is for students with complex reading disabilities that are caused by phonemic awareness deficits and additional cognitive or neurological issues. This tier should be handled by a reading specialist. They can use this application as a structured curriculum and automated scheduler while running their own interventions. Right, so they can use it mostly so they don't have to run a curriculum or they don't have to track the student. So they get the benefits of an individualized curriculum and all the benefits of my practice engine that I talked about in this page. So the practice engine schedules lessons for them optimally, and they can focus on the skills that they're good at, which is running the specific interventions, targeting any of these causes, in addition to phonemic awareness, right? Yeah, but you would actually need a reading specialist, so I'm not going to give any type of instructions because I think that is beyond the scope of this program. But hopefully for the small percentage of students that still need additional support, it can still be useful for them. Yeah, so that is pretty much all of it. This video probably will end up being over half an hour long, maybe 45 minutes or so. But I think because this is the same procedure that you have to follow for every lesson, whether it's hip, tap, SIP, or the last level 25, which has words from mathematics or medicine, right? Those are words that are much more complex. You can literally use the same procedure for every word. So it's a little bit of an investment to learn these interventions, but it is, I think, a worthy investment. You don't have to learn any technical terms like double vowels, vowel teams, or any kind of stuff that other phonics programs make you do. Yeah, so I hope that this is helpful for you and your student, and thank you for watching.